Hi, welcome to our webinar, Google Kills Traditional Search, How Law Firms Can Win Google's New Everything, Everywhere, All at Once AI Search. I'm Desiree Martinelli, the Director of Marketing and Analytics at Esquire Interactive, and I'm also a business attorney. And today presenting with me is also Jeff Lance, our CEO, and he is also an attorney. Now, before we get into the really good stuff, I'm going to show you a little video that Jeff and I created with AI that kind of sums up the theme of today's presentation.
One second, Desiree. We're having a slight
Jeff's controlling, so while he's getting the video
technical
going, I'm
issue
also
here.
going to. You what?
So we're having a slight technical issue here.
Slight
Let's.
technical issues. Well, while that's going on, I'm just going to let everybody know at the very end of the chat, we will, at the end of the presentation, we're going to take questions and answers. We'll do like a little FAQ session. So if you have any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to pop those into the chat. We'll circle back to them at the end so that you guys so we can get back to them and address them. All right, here is our video.
Maybe we have another
Maybe.
technical question or issue. There we go.
So, rest in peace, Google search. Well, maybe Google search is not completely dead, but Google search as we know it and how we've been marketing previously to get into the organic rankings is definitely changing. And there's a huge seismic shift with this new AI overview and AI mode. So I'm going to pass it over to Jeff, and Jeff's going to talk about what we're going to be covering today in this presentation.
Okay, thanks, Desiree. Sorry, my apologies for the technical glitches that we had a minute ago. So the presentation objectives today are really going to be threefold, but before I go into those, the presentation today is going to be around 30 to 35 minutes for the main portion of it. And as Desiree mentioned, if you have questions, please feel free to add them in the chat box, and then we can go ahead and address those after the end of the main part of the presentation. So the main thing that we want to talk today is about how you can understand how Google AI overviews and AI platforms like ChatGPT are taking over and dramatically changing traditional search. No longer are people necessarily even going to Google to do a search like they have been in the past. A lot of times people will be having AI platforms like ChatGPT. They might have them open on their desktop all day long. They might be asking things for like medical diagnosis in ChatGPT, or where to go on vacation, or even things about like, buying things, or, different types of like maybe movies they should watch. So the seismic shift that's really going on right now is when people have these AI platforms open and they're used to searching on them all day long. The question is like, I'm getting really familiar with ChatGPT. Why do I want to go to Google? I'm just going to search for an attorney right within ChatGPT. So the second presentation objective is to think about how questions that people are now using in AI searches. And this fundamentally is going to be a little bit different than the questions or than the search queries that they've been using in Google. And what I mean by that is traditionally, if people were searching for a lawyer in Google, they might just put in something like Tucson personal injury lawyer. If they're using ChatGPT, their search might be really different because they're used to entering more uh, longer questions. So they might say, who is the best personal injury attorney in Tucson? Or who's the best personal injury lawyer near me that offers contingency fees? So think about those types of questions that your audience or your prospective clients may be doing. This is going to help you better create content that is going to be more likely to actually be shown both in the AI overviews as well as AI platforms like ChatGPT. So third of all, we're going to talk about developing strategies and creating content and basically creating authority across the web so that your attorneys and your firm is more likely to appear not only in the Google AI overviews, but also ChatGPT and similar platforms. So let's talk about part of what's happened in the seismic shift in AI. A few months back at Google's annual, what they called the I/O conference, they noted some significant changes that they're doing. Basically, they're shifting to providing users with AI generated summaries of their queries, which are going to be comprised of a number of different resources, not just strictly related to law firm websites, as an example. So more specifically, they talked about rolling out what's called AI mode in search, which is going to be an end-to-end experience plugging in Gemini, which is Google's AI tool. Again, in the end-to-end experience, ChatGPT and other AI platforms are basically the same as Gemini with respect to the end-to-end. That means, in essence, that people are going to be entering in queries and that the AI is going to be producing summaries or overviews based upon the queries or the questions. And then people don't necessarily need to go anyplace else. They're going to get their answer right there. So that's the end-to-end search. Google also noted that they're rolling out what they call deep search in AI mode using what are called fan-out techniques. These are techniques that issue hundreds of searches that are used to ultimately create the AI search results. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. Two other things that Google noted is a new project called Google Lens, which is going to be communicating with Google Live in video format. And then another one, which is going to be, I think, really neat for all of us, is called Project Astra. That's not really out yet. Um, Project Astra will have what are called agent capabilities, so you can ask it a question like, get me 2 tickets to the Who concert, and it's going to come back with that information right there so that you can just go ahead and take the next step and purchase the tickets. So the traditional AI search model and the new AI search model look a little bit like this. The traditional model is over on the right-hand side, which is going to be things like optimizing your website, try to get good quality backlinks, and make sure that your website is loading quickly, and a number of other factors. The new search model looks more like the model on the left-hand side, which is AI, and there's going to be a lot of different AI components. I noted here a few of them like the AI mode Gemini, shopping. That's another thing that Google's coming out with. But there's a lot of different, within the term or the realm of AI, there's going to be a lot of different specific AI tools. Some of them are going to be used by Google to be combined to create the AI overviews. And so the old model that we're all familiar with, just to contrast the old model with the new model, is if someone puts in a search like who's the best PI lawyer in Arizona, there's kind of a 3-step process that Google uses. First of all, they will have already spidered law firm websites all around the country and everything. They're going to be indexing those websites along a whole number of different criteria, including things like best PI lawyer in Arizona. Step 2 is Google's going to be creating or considering things like the on-site optimization, how well you have pages that might be optimized around best PI lawyer, quality of backlinks, page speed, and a whole other number of factors. Reportedly, there's about 200 factors in their algorithms. And then their algorithms basically just churn through the data and then they prepare a rank ordered list of law firm websites. So we type in a query like who's the best PI lawyer in Arizona, and then Google spits out a number of websites that we can go to get more information about that. So that's still going to be the case, but as Desiree and I are going to talk about, those types of search results are going to be pushed down further in the Google search results. And instead, Google is going to be promoting more and more what they call the AI overviews. And the AI overviews are done based upon large learning language or large language models, or sometimes referred to as LLMs. The LLMs are basically models that not only Google has, but Microsoft through Copilot, ChatGPT, and a lot of other AI platforms do. And again, what these models are doing is they're trying to search a ton of different information across the internet in order to create answers relative to our search queries. And so how the LLMs work is really important to understand. So on the right-hand side, if we put a search query again, you can see in the middle, who is the best PI lawyer in Arizona? What the AI platforms do now is, I mentioned the fan-out techniques. And so this is exactly what the fan-out technique is. On the kind of the middle towards the top, you can see related queries that Google and other AI platforms will also do. So they're going to search a whole lot of websites, social media, YouTube, all kinds of different properties on the internet around things like highly recommended PI lawyers, best rated PI lawyers near me, top accident lawyers Arizona, top Arizona PI lawyers. So they're going to be searching on platforms like the ones that are shown on the right hand side of the screen. You know, it could be Avo, Reddit, Quora, X, Pinterest, LinkedIn, a whole number of platforms. So what they're really doing is they're really basically searching across the web to try to grab information so that they can put together a good answer for the searcher. And once they do that and they go through all the programmatically all the formulas and everything that they have, they're going to put the AI overview output, which is shown at the bottom of the screen. So in other words, if you enter a query like this, Google is no longer going to be just looking at law firm websites. They're going to be looking at the whole internet. So what's really happening on the search results pages are what I would think of, or what I think of as bifurcated search results. And at the top, the thing that they're giving the most importance to now are the AI search results. So again, typically now when we're searching on Google, we're going to see more and more of these AI overviews at the top. The website link results, these are the traditional ones, again, like links to law firms. Those are going to be de-emphasized, and what's being happened for those is they are pushing down those links and everything lower on the page. So what's really happening as the result of both of these things are two seismic changes. The first is that by presenting the AI overviews, um, Google is giving questions to users directly in the AI overview so users don't have to go to the website. So that is decreasing organic clicks to the website. And then second of all, by just simply by pushing down these traditional search results lower on the page, that's also leading to less clicks because the lower on the page that something is on search results, the less likely it is to be clicked. So here's another quick example of this. So there's a few questions here on the left-hand side. Let's take the Bears schedule for 2025. Well, the thing that Google doesn't really care anymore about like giving me, the user, links to go see what the Bears schedule is for 2025. So they're still going to put on links a little bit lower on the page that may take me to the Chicago Bears site or the NFL's website if I want to see the schedule. But fundamentally, what Google's trying to do is they're trying to present the answers to the search queries directly on the search results landing page. So again, that obviates the need for me to go to the website. So if I do a search for Bears schedule 2025, the chances are really good that Google's just going to put that schedule right there in the AI overviews. And so I don't have to take that next step.
So, what exactly is the new reality then with all of this? Well, you may have noticed that organic traffic visits are going to go down, and not just a little bit, they're going down substantially. We've already seen this happening, obviously, when the AI overviews rolled out. We're also going to see, like Jeff mentioned, the search results are going to be pushed further down the page, giving more premium real estate to all of those AI overviews and paid ads. As such, you really need to be focusing on what you can do to make sure that you're appearing in the AI overviews over what you can do to try to get into the organic search results because they're no longer as important. So, what do law firms need to do? Well, first of all, you definitely need to understand the new search roles and what underlies them. We're going to talk about that in more detail in just a few minutes. And once you understand these new search rules, you need to develop a very focused strategy for creating authority for your firm. And we'll also tell you exactly what that entails in just a few minutes.
So the first question then is like, what can I do to try to get myself as a lawyer or my law firm positioned in the Google AI summaries and also the ChatGPT results as well. So one of the things that you can do is you can reverse engineer Google AI and ChatGPT search results to determine what they think is important to appearing in the AI overviews and ChatGPT answers. So the reverse engineering kind of sounds like it might be complicated, but really it's very, very simple. All you really need to do is you can go to Google and you can also go to ChatGPT or other AI platforms and enter a simple search query like this. Who is the top personal injury lawyer near me? So that's what we did. This was actually done by Desiree. She lives in Long Beach. So the results are going to be shown that are going to be close to her because she's specifically asking for a lawyer near her. You can see right away that Google's putting in three law firms that they're listing. And if we take a look at the information that they're including by these three firms, that gives you a little bit of an idea in terms of what Google AI thinks is important in order to be found in these searches. So for instance, one of the things that you can see here are the AI overviews are giving an emphasis to the Google Business Places reviews. So that's something, if your firm hasn't already been doing it in the past, to be focusing on reviews, that's one thing that you might also want to do. At the third one here, you can see that they have information that's coming either from their website or maybe it's from one of their social media properties, that they serve Long Beach. And you can see some of the other information here that's being put in by the Google AI overview. Again, you can do this same search query in ChatGPT or other AI platforms. This is going to give you a really good idea of the things that you need to do. Another thing is in the AI overviews, a lot of times Google is doing or adding additional information like key considerations when choosing a lawyer. So you can take a look here and you can say, oh, they're looking at experience, client reviews, and testimonials. Again, the reviews is popping up again, fee structure, case results. So things like that. What you want to do on your practice pages then is to think about going back and reviewing some of them and modifying some of them. So for instance, if you have a practice page about car accidents and it just talks about car accident attorney, things like that you've optimized it for previously, you may want to expand like the text that's near talking about car accidents and say something like, we have over 100 years of collective experience representing clients in car accident cases. We've been selected to be in super lawyers, and maybe you have some other awards that you want to mention. And then you can also put reviews there or talk about reviews. We've been privileged to have over 55-star reviews from our clients. To the extent that you're looking at this type of information in the AI, in the Google AI overviews and ChatGPT and other platforms, and you're making it easy by them by putting this information that they're looking for together, that's going to be more likely that you and your firm are going to show up in these places. So what we're urging today is don't focus only on on-site SEO. You need to be seen as a true authority across the web, and Desiree is going to talk about how you can do this.
All right, so as Jeff mentioned, PageRank is out, complex LLM filters are in. So what exactly is an LLM? Well, large language models are essentially the data sets that underlie all of these really cool AI tools like ChatGPT. They're what they're trained on. So think of them as the brain, essentially. Now, it's good to understand kind of the differences between how traditional search worked versus the AI search because they use completely different algorithms. And that's very, very important. We're going to get a little bit nerdy in a couple minutes, and I'm going to break down and deep dive into those algorithms. But just at a high level, so you know, so traditional SEO focused on page optimization and backlinks. So essentially, you could write a really amazing blog post, put your keyword that you want to rank for in that blog post multiple times, optimize your headings, maybe get a couple of backlinks, and then publish it to your website. And then you'd be shown prominently, if you did a good job, at the top of the Google search results. But again, those are pushed down further, so they no longer are as important. So now AI search is focused on trust, topical authority, and verified domain reputation across the entire web. not just your site. And one last note, AI is really less forgiving of low quality pages and content, and it also rewards consistent authoritative publishing. So if you've been creating a lot of just filler content for a long time, you could actually be punished in this new algorithm if you don't remove it. And if you're only posting once in a blue moon, that's also going to be to your detriment because Google, like I said, is going to reward consistent new content and they're going to be looking for that on a regular basis. All right, so I said we were going to take a deep dive and get a little nerdy. This is it. So, large language models, it's really imperative to understand what type of information actually is making it through to these training models because only a very small sliver of all the websites and all the content on the web make it through. And so Google, we're going to use that as the example, uses a three-part filtering system. So first of all, it crawls out on the internet, it looks at all websites, data sets, documents, archives, and it plops all of those into its little funnel, right? And at the first level, it uses text quality filters. So at this stage, it's going to filter out things that have duplicate content, that are scraped content. If the page has keywords stuffing or it's too spammy, it's going to take that out. Or if you have thin page content, meaning that it's very low value, not very informational, you're just kind of blabbing on about a whole lot of nothing. Essentially, Google's going to disregard all of those pages and take them out. It's never going to even make it to the LLMs. So never have a chance to even get into the AI search results. Now, after that level of filtering, it then has a second level. This is called the domain whitelisting step. So at this, Google uses actually external open source lists. These are widely available to anybody on the internet, and it pre-approves or whitelist in those sites because it thinks that they are high authority. And it turns to lists like the Majestic Million, Cloudflare Radar, and Chonko. And we're going to look at Majestic Million in just a second, so I'll explain what those are in more detail in just a minute. So, but essentially the thing to know there is that it looks at these lists that say that these are the best sites on the internet, and it automatically opens the door to them and says, okay, those can be in the training model. So then once it's limited down on that step, it goes to the third and final filter, which is topical authority. So with the sites and content that is left, it then is going to look really, really deep at really what the content is and how informational it is. So it prioritizes depth over breadth. So what does that mean? It means that even if you're writing a 5,000 word article, if it's not great, it doesn't care. It wants things to be informational. It wants them to be good content, not just filler. So even if you have a 1,000 word article, if it's really well written, it can still outrank something that's 5,000 words long. You also want to make sure that you are emphasizing your entity association, making a strong entity association. So what exactly does that mean? Well, as an easy example, if I sell tennis shoes, then I don't need to be talking about hot dogs on my social media and on my website because I just need to stick to tennis shoes. Google needs to see that I'm an authority on tennis shoes. In the law practice, if I'm a PI lawyer, I need to talk only about PI and about my practice areas, because that's going to make me more of an authority just in that particular practice area or practice group. And last but not least, I said this a second ago, consistency of coverage over time is absolutely super important. If Google sees that you're regularly updating your website, your social media, and you're talking about the same thing all the time, it's going to think that you have better content. And as a result, it's going to reward you, and you may actually end up in these search results. So after all three steps of this filtering system, the result is that less than 5% of the sources or documents, sites on the internet actually make it through to these LLM training models. And this is going to be really important, and I'm going to tell you why in just a second. Let's take a look at that Majestic Million I was talking about first. Okay, so what exactly is this? Well, you can go to Google Majestic Million. It's going to bring up this list. It is the 1 million most authoritative websites on the internet, and it measures this by trust and citation flow. So the sites, like I said, that show up on this list automatically are recognized as high authority, and they can be whitelisted in to these LLMs, like I said. So what does this mean for law firms, and why is this even relevant, right? Well, for two reasons. First of all, you can try to get your law firm into the Majestic Million. That's going to be the number one best thing that you could do. But obviously, some markets are extremely competitive, and it can be very difficult to get yourself into the 1 million top websites because just there's so many out there. So if you can't do that, then the next best thing you can do is to try to get on as many sites that are on the Majestic Million list as possible. So guest posting, even paid spots sometimes on these sites are going to be helpful because you know that those are automatically in the training models. And you know, because of that, if you're on them, you're going to have a higher chance of showing up in whatever AI recommendations they put out that are based upon these language models.
So Desiree talked about thin content and what are the things that you should stop doing. Well, you should immediately stop if you've been putting out filler content like low value blog posts and things like that, because that's going to diminish your authority overall. So it's going to be more important if your website, like let's say, has 100 pages, including blog posts, and all those pages are really super good quality. They have a lot of value to people reading those pages. You're going to be a lot better off than having 1,000 pages and having 100 of those be really good and the other 900 not being very good. So again, you want to stop putting out thin content if that's the thing that you've been doing. You might even want to go back and take a look at old blog posts and things that you put out to try to develop or determine whether those might be thin content. One of the ways you can consider or think about them being low value is if you go to GA4 and you run a report for like the last year in terms of how many people actually went to some of these other landing pages or blog posts. And if you find that nobody's actually gone to them over the course of the year, that's another consideration that you might want to think about having those pages removed. And so, what should you do? Well, you really should do sort of three things. You want to develop a plan, and the plan needs to include building brand trust. Desiree's going to talk about that, and also about how to create authoritative content. And then lastly, we're going to talk about how to amplify that new content across the web.
Okay, so I cannot emphasize this enough. It is super important, especially with this new AI search, to set a budget and to plan strategically. This does not mean that you have to have a budget for an external marketing company. If you're a firm that has an internal marketing company, if you're a solo that does it all yourself, all I am urging you to do is make sure that you have some type of budget set just for the efforts to stay ahead of the game in this whole new AI SEO, environment. So let's take a little bit closer look at what exactly should be, what you should be doing, or why you even need to have this. Well, you see, with this new AI-driven search environment, it really is a race. Visibility is, and staying relevant is a race. So if your competitors are investing month over month in trying to be as many places as possible, you're going to get left behind. And playing catch up is going to be very difficult because you now don't just have to update your website to get ahead or to catch back up. You have to make sure that you're in as many places as possible. And it takes time to get you out on as many places as possible. So what exactly should this, your plan and budget address? These are just at a minimum recommendations for what you should be budgeting for at a minimum. You can obviously add to this, but you need to make sure that you are producing authoritative content. So this can be in-depth articles, FAQs, videos, or data-driven resources. You also want to look for high trust placements. This may even be a paid placement in certain instances. You want to publish on platforms like Justia, the National Law Review, JD Supra. We're actually seeing when you search for like the best personal injury lawyer in a location, these sites are being referenced in like right in the top of the results. So if you're on those sites, again, you're going to have a better chance of appearing in those results. You also want to have part of your budget dedicated to content optimization and updates. As Jeff just mentioned, with this new algorithm, you can actually be penalized for having thin content. So what will happen is Google will start disregarding your entire site because they think you have a ton of spam content. So as Jeff just mentioned, it may be a case where you need to go back and cut back pages, or you may need to go in and revise your existing practice pages to make them less spammy or to make them better. And you want to be doing this on a consistent basis. And last but not least, amplification. So it's, like I said, it's not good enough just to make sure that you're updating your website. You really need to be everywhere all at once, or really as in many places as you possibly can. So this is things like sharing your information across social media, putting out newsletters, press releases, doing guest spots on bar associations and partner sites. All of those are going to help you get your information out and be recognized as a more of an authority in your practice area. So this is just a little example, maybe a plan you could put together for yourself. So obviously, you want to be everywhere all the time. So what can you do? Well, maybe you're going to create 4 pieces of high value content. You're going to publish 4 new blog posts each month, and you're also going to put out 10 social media posts. If you do not have social media accounts on all major social sites, I highly recommend signing up for them. You can use tools like Sendable, where you can schedule a single post and it will actually post on all those sites. So I highly recommend doing that. You can also build support pages. So if you have really good primary pages already, so say that you're like a women's rights attorney and you have a great sexual harassment page, well, maybe you need to build out FAQ support pages that answer questions directly related to that topic that people will be asking or querying about in the AI search results. You also want to produce quick FAQ videos. We're seeing a lot of videos that are being featured sometimes in these AI search results. Also, Google owns YouTube, so it obviously is going to promote its content above all else, and it likes to showcase videos. So play the game, make the videos, it will be in your favor. And last but not least, leverage press releases. So in the past, press releases used to be a thing and they kind of died out because Google's organic algorithm kind of disregarded them as spammy and could kind of tell the difference. With this new algorithm that prioritizes being everywhere, press releases again are relevant. So you want to be putting out press releases because they can be picked up by major sites that are on that majestic million. And also, when you make one of these, you maybe pay $125 and they disseminate that information to hundreds of sites. So you can be getting out your name and your information in hundreds of different places, and just by doing one action. So that's also really great. So how exactly can you build authority and brand trust across the web? Well, let's look at some really particular tools that we use when we're making our content or planning our content. These are things that are really going to help you boost your content moving forward. So first of all, what makes it authoritative, or what can you do to beef up your content? Well, you can include things like what you see here on the page, add statistics, charts, and graphs. If you already have a bunch of blog posts for an attorney, go in and put in the author credentials and a little blurb and talk about them being 5-star rated or an authority in this particular practice group. Reference and link to external, really high value sources, things like government sites, statutes. All of those are going to help give you some nice link juice and help boost your credibility. You can also include stories and hypotheticals, and again, put out things like press releases. These are just some ideas, but these types of things that we're seeing are being showcased in the search results. So these are the things that Google's really paying attention to. So how exactly do you get started? And I know that we're giving you a lot of information and it can be really overwhelming. Well, this is the perfect place to get started. Start with analytics. So we like to use for metrics reports, but you can use GA4, which are Google Analytics 4 free reports. And you want to determine the top performing landing pages on your site. The reason being is because say that you have a site that has thousands and thousands of pages. If 99% of your traffic is only going to 10 of those pages, those are more important right now to address before you address the other, thousands that only get 1% of the traffic. So start there and target those first and then work your way out. Another good thing to do is to turn to the people also ask questions on Google. This is a great place to figure out what people are querying about on Google right now. And you can take these and incorporate them into your existing pages so that Google will show your results, or you'll be more likely to be shown here. But I also have a shortcut for finding all of these people also ask questions. So there's a really cool tool called, here it is, Answer the Public. And you can go here and put in a keyword that you want to rank for, and it will show you all the people also asked that pop up on Google. It'll give you like a list of like 25 of them. Now, this tool gives you 3 free searches per day, so I only use the free version, but it's a really great time saver. So you can just go in there, put in your keyword, and then in seconds have all those FAQs. Highly recommend checking that out. Another good thing that you can be doing is running a content gap report. So if you're not familiar with what that is, a content gap report is actually a report that looks at your website and then it looks at competitors that are ranking high, and it says, okay, your competitors are ranking for all these keywords and FAQs and long tail keywords that you are not ranking for. So it shows you everything essentially that your competitors are getting traffic for that you're not. And the reason why this is so great is because what you can do is strategically make your plan month after month based on a content gap report. You can search for terms that you are not currently ranking for, write content about it, push it out on all your social media sites and everywhere that you can, and then pull traffic away from your competitors strategically. So I highly recommend running these types of reports. Ahrefs does content gap reports. A lot of other tools do as well. But this is a great resource and a great place to start if you're not really sure about what types of content you should be writing about. Once you've actually written really great content, there's a great tool called Surfer SEO that you can utilize to see how your content stacks up against your competitors. So this tool allows you to go in and either paste in content or put in a URL, and it will actually pull the content in for you. And it looks at the top ranking pages on Google, and it essentially scores those pages on a 1 to 100 scale. And it will tell you, okay, the top ranking page on Google has a score of 85. You're at 75 right now. And it gives very specific recommendations on how you can improve your score in the organic search results. So things like use this keyword specifically 5 times. You need the length of your page to be this. Use these latent semantic terms, which are just related terms to whatever your topic is about, that will clue Google into the fact that this page is high authority or is talking about this. So essentially, I'll go in here and make tweaks until my score outperforms the top performing result. I'll upload that to a site, and once that's done, I always go and resubmit my pages to Google Search Console. So Google crawls the internet, but it can take a while for it to find new content or updated content. So make sure that you're getting the most SEO value and that you have the best chances of showing up at the top right away. You can go to Google Search Console, put in your link there, and ask it to index it immediately. That way you're not waiting for that value. Okay, another recommendation is to update your Google business profile regularly. So Google has actually added additional information to the Google business profiles that wasn't previously there. Specifically, they now have a place where you can link all your social media accounts. So I highly recommend you going in and doing that. The reason being is because a lot of times when you ask or query anything like near me or local, it turns to the Google business profile, sends out a crawler, looks at your reviews, and then that crawler, if there are links to social sites, will crawl to those sites. So there's a better chance of it finding all that information that you're posting on a regular basis and also referencing it. So make sure that you update that. And then also, Google recommends publishing on your Google business profile at least once a week. This will give you the best chances of showing up high in those local search results.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about amplifying the content, but I just want to reiterate what Desiree's saying about Google business profiles. Google, for at least for the Google AI overviews, they're increasingly trying to promote in their algorithms, I think, the importance of Google business profiles. So, in other words, you really do need to start going in and updating your Google business profile, like Desiree mentioned, on a regular basis, because Google is tying that in terms of the output for the AI overview. So that's really important.
One more
But
note on that, Jeff. Can I jump in?
yeah,
Sorry,
sure.
that made me
Go
think
ahead.
of something. Yeah, that was one thing that I noticed. They used to link to actual law firm sites and those little round links Jeff showed you earlier with the suggested content. Now they're going straight to GMBs or Google Business Profiles in a lot of cases. So that's another reason why you really want to update it, because that may be the only thing that prospective clients will even see.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. So once you have all this content created, you have a content plan, you want to amplify the content. So in essence, it gets back to the everything everywhere all at once that we started off the program about. Is Google really wants to be like going across the web, going across the top whitelisted websites that Desiree mentioned earlier on, including the ones that are listed up here. They're really, really looking for authority. The same thing for the other AI platforms like ChatGPT. They're looking for the same thing. If you're putting in any type of question, ChatGPT doesn't, or Google AI doesn't want to just like take stuff off of just necessarily one website and say, well, that's that's going to be the definitive answer. They want to get confirmation across the web. And so that's another thing that you can really think about is that word confirmation tied with authority, because that's exactly what you're trying to do. So again, these are just some places that we have up on the screen now, some different social media sites. go to these sites. You don't have to go to all of them, but start thinking about having profiles. Think about in your profiles, to the extent that it's a profile maybe just about your law firm, to not just put your firm in there and the practice areas that you do. Talk about your experience. Talk about contingent fees or free consultation or things like that that are going to be helpful to actually make it into the AI overviews or the responses produced by ChatGPT. The more that you can do those types of things, the better off that you're going to be showing up in the AI overview section. And then also ChatGPT. ChatGPT is, we can't emphasize this enough. The law firms now that are looking in where their actual visitors are coming from, and this probably pertains to your firm as well, is if you start, you're going to see Google and you're going to see the traditional list of places that people come from to get to your website. But increasingly, you're going to see ChatGPT and other AI platforms. So this is going to be a seismic shift. Your law firm, if you do everything right, you're going to start getting a lot more traffic from these AI platforms and probably fewer from at least the Google organic. So that concludes the main part of our presentation. If you have any questions, please feel free to add them into the chat area.
Yes, let me go over there. I think we have a couple, so let me bring up our chat. Will we receive a copy of the presentation? Absolutely. We'd be happy to send that out to everybody. We can definitely do that. Barbara asked, what makes it thin? What makes content thin?
That's a really good question, Barbara. The thin content is sort of the you know it when you see it test. And so here's an example. If you're doing a page about a Chicago personal injury lawyer, and the content is geared around if you've been injured in a car accident in Chicago, you need a Chicago car accident injury lawyer to help you with your Chicago car accident case. And that's all you're basically doing in essence is you're talking just about your firm does car accident injury cases in Chicago. That's not going to necessarily be that helpful. What's going to be a lot more helpful if you put statistics, if you add FAQs, how long do I have to file a car accident case in Chicago, or how long do Chicago car accident cases take, or things like that, where you're actually adding value to the reader. That's really the best way to think about it.
Yeah, I think traditionally a lot of firms also, and it's good to have out like a bio page too and talk about yourself, but a lot of firms will have stuff about like we're the best car accident lawyers in the city, which is great. You can still do that, but they just kind of go on about themselves and they don't answer any questions or provide that information. So they kind of just talk about the firm and how great it is. And as a result, that's kind of the thin content that Google eliminates because it's like, well, this isn't really going to help out users at all. Let's see. Next question. What is the name of the place to place one order that goes to many sites? I'm not sure that I understand that. Do you understand that, Jeff? That question?
No, I'm sorry, I don't.
We may need a little bit. Are you talking about maybe like what site, what is going to many sites maybe? Both Google and ChatGPT both do that with that technique. So you can even see it if you go to AI mode on Google and you put in a search, you'll see like it'll actually have a counter of how many sites it's actually querying. So you can see that it's going to hundreds of sites, if that's what you're asking. Let's see the next one. LinkedIn scraping blog posts to train generative AI. Is that stealing my content? You were gonna
Well,
have to get
go ahead,
content.
Jennifer. You're
Oh,
the
no, that's
attorney.
yeah, no, so yeah, I mean, oh, IP, yeah. If you're taking somebody's content, yes, a person has copyrights automatically whenever they fix something into a tangible medium. So the second that somebody writes something, if you take something written by somebody, that is a copyright infringement. But even more so, you can be penalized for duplicate content. That people do it all the time. They still steal content or they just change it slightly. Google actually can detect that. And again, when I was explaining the filters, that actually is filtered out in that first step, which is the highest one. So you really want to stay away from any type of duplicate content as much as possible because that will penalize you.
Yeah.
Um,
So
uh-huh.
I was going to add, so if they're taking your full blog post and they're copying it, putting it on their website, obviously that's not a permitted use of intellectual property. Google, of course, takes like little snippets from website and they put it on their search results, and that's okay.
Yeah, and you can have in some cases like if somebody is reposting your content on their page, they could also no index it so that they don't end up with that duplicate content and they can still disseminate, I mean, put your information out there, or change it up or link back to your original story or content and just have a little blurb and then link back. And that's going to avoid that duplicate content, but it will still allow you to be featured on other sites or external sites. Let's see. I don't see any more questions. Do we have any more questions? I'm just going to give it a second. Well, if anybody thinks of any questions after this, like I said, I know that we covered a lot of stuff. Jeff and I put our emails up here and also our phone numbers so you guys can call us directly anytime. Feel free to shoot us a message asking anything that you have questions about. But other than that, we really appreciate everybody showing up today for this webinar. We hope that it was helpful, and we hope
Thank
that you
you.
guys have an amazing, amazing day. Thanks so much for watching.